Hi everyone, I am Mahesh. In this video, I am going to show you how to find if two strings are anagram or not. First of all, let us understand what anagram is. An anagram of a string is another string of same length that contains same characters, but the order of characters can be different. For example, Army, Mary. If you observe here, so this ARMY, Army, and MARY has all the characters of army and is of same length. So these two strings we can call it as anagrams. Like in the same way, there are some more anagrams like say for example, taste, state, and taste are anagrams of each other. Likewise, listen and silent are anagrams of each other. So these are some of the examples of anagram. Now let us write the program for the same. Let me create a new class. I'll name my class as check anagram. We'll take main method and let us create a method here to check if two strings are anagrams or not. So I'll name my method as is anagram, which will return boolean. That is, it will finally say whether two strings are anagram or not. And for that, we'll read two strings, and two strings we are going to read it in two character arrays. So finally, we'll be calling this method from the main method that we'll see it later. Say, for example, we have a method to check if two strings are anagram of each other or not, and which actually takes two strings in character array. Now, what we are going to do here is, as a first step, what we'll do here is, okay, it is saying, it is showing some error, right? That is of to return some value. For example, let's return false for now. And the first step, what we are going to check is both strings should have same length. So that will be our first check. If the string length itself is different, so there is no chance of two strings to be anagram. So that is what we are going to check first. And then if this condition itself is failed, then we'll just return false, saying that two strings are not anagram. Now, say for example, length of two strings is equal. Now what to do? So for that, what I'm going to do here is I'll create an integer array. So we are not sure now what could be the max length of my integer array. So say for example, for now I'll just provide some value. We'll come back to this later. Let us write a logic for first. So we wanted to loop through all the characters in the string, and this condition can be either string 1 or string 2. So we already checked this condition, and we are here, and we will be here only if both the string lengths are equal. So this condition can be either string 1 or string 2 length. So we wanted to loop through all characters in the string, and what we are going to do here is observe now. Count of, we have the integer array, so string 1 of I plus plus, then count of string 2 of index minus minus. So what does this mean? Let us take an example and understand for this. So here is an example. You can see ARMY, army, and MARY is what is string 2 is. So ARMY is our string 1. So let me put it here. This is string 1. This is string 2. And indexes are also represented here. You can see it. So now what we wanted to check here is we have a count integer. So in integer array variable count. So you can see here what we are doing, count of string 1 of I plus plus. So what does an integer array takes? So it actually takes an index, right, which is a number. But if you observe here, string 1 of I. So what does that return? String 1 is this of I. For the first time I will be 0. It returns A. You can see it here. So count of A. But is this valid first of all? So it should have an index which is a number, but we are getting A here, count of A, capital A plus plus. So what happens in that case? So Java, it implicitly converts this A, character A, into an equivalent ASCII code. So we'll see what an ASCII code is. So for that, just go to Google and type ASCII table. Now here you can find the ASCII table here. So this is what we call it as an ASCII table. It is just a numerical representation of each character, and we can see it here for small a, right? This A, you can the uppercase A. We can find the uppercase A here. You can clearly see it here, A here, and the decimal value for that is 65. We can clearly see it here. It is 65. So that is what it will return. That is what Java knows, the numerical representation of uppercase A, and that is what it will be replaced with. The index will be replaced with. Now count of 65 plus plus. So the index 65 in the count, let's say for example, this is count. This is my count array. And here the indexes can be anything, like we are not sure on what can be the array size for now. We will calculate that later. For now, count of 65, right? So say for example, this is my 60. Let's say for example, this is 65th index, and what are we going to do? We wanted to increment the value by 1, and remember, and also assume that all the elements in my count integer array are 0 for now. And now what we wanted to do, count of 65 plus plus. So this is 65th index, let's say for example plus plus. So the value becomes 1 now. Next, count of string 2 of I minus minus. So what is string 2 of I? String 2 of I is M. So an equivalent numerical representation of uppercase M will be written. So let us find what's the numerical representation of uppercase M from the ASCII table. So you can see it here again. So the numerical representation here is 77, I guess. Yes, 77. You can see it here. It is 77. So we'll go back here. Again, what happens, like here, the 77 index, let's say for example, it exists somewhere here. 77 is the index here. And the value becomes minus. So all the values are 0. By default, all the values are, let's say for example, all the values are 0. Now what should happen? 77, we wanted to do minus, meaning the value of 77 index will be -1 now. So in the same way, then what are we going to do? We are incrementing I here. So what happens in that case? Again, like I becomes 1 from string 1 of I. So that is R. Again, what's the ASCII code of R? That will be read from the table. That is what Java converts implicitly. R, you can see it is 82. So 82 will be index 82. Say for example, it is somewhere here 82 will be plus plus. So this becomes 1 now. And then what happens? The same for string 2 as well, A again. So we know 65. Numerical representation of A is 65, and count of 65 minus this time. Count of 65 minus. So 1 minus 1. This becomes 0 now. Next, I is incremented to 2. So then what happens? String 1 of I, M. So representation of M is 77. We know. We calculated it just now. So we wanted to do +1 for it. So the value of at index 77 is -1. We wanted to increment it. So it becomes 0 now. Then string 2 of I. So R. What's the R value? It is 82. We just now found it, and we wanted to decrement the value at that index by 1. So it already has 1 here. So we wanted to decrement this value by 1. So this becomes 0. Next, I becomes incremented again. I is incremented to 3. This time, like string 1 of I becomes y. And what's the numerical representation of y? We'll check it from the ASCII table. You can see it here. It is 89. So it is 89. Let's say, for example, this represents 89. This is the index 89, and what we wanted to do, we wanted to increment this value by 1. We incremented, fine. Next line, string 2 of y. So again, here also we have y. So y index is 89, and we wanted to decrement the value by 1. Whatever value is in 89th index, we wanted to decrement it by 1. So we have 1 minus 1 is 0, and we are done with all the reading all the characters from string 1 and string 2 as well, as the length of both strings are same. Now if you observe, it comes out of the loop, and you can clearly see here. So if once we come out of the loop, for loop, and if all the values in the integer count integer array are 0, then we can conclude that two strings are anagram of each other. So what happens if these two are like not anagrams? Say for example, we have some car and some cat. So in that case, what happens is, so with this C, the index of whatever can be the index of C, so it gets incremented, and with in the second string, if you observe, we are decrementing the value by 1, so it becomes 0. Though this increments it, this decrements it, this increments it, this string 2 will decrement it, so this also will become 0. But here, index of R can be something, so we know something, it is like 82, right? It becomes 1, and T becomes say for example something like it will be 84, right? So say for example 1. Then what happens in that case? Some of the elements will be non-zero in that case. So in that case, what happens? We can say that these two strings are not anagram of each other. So at the end of this for loop, we need to verify this count integer array, and should verify that all the elements in that array should be 0. In that case only, we'll conclude that both strings are anagram of each other. This is the logic we are going to follow now. Now, let me write it here. So this is done. And now we wanted to find the size of this array, right? For that, what we'll do here is we'll again go back to ASCII table, and you can see here all the characters are represented from like decimal value 0 to 127. That is, there are like 128 characters. Fine. And we also have, if you slowly scroll down, we also have extended ASCII codes here. These are like some special symbols. You can see it here. So if you think that you're going to provide some of these symbols also in your string, then we can declare that array size as 256, or else we can just declare our array as 128 if you wanted to have only these characters and some keys. So that is how we are going to have our size. So to have the size, we'll declare a variable. I'll name that as some max char. This can be 128 or 256 according to your requirement. I'll use this variable here. Now my count integer array is like declared, and it has like 128 elements in it. Now I wanted to initialize all of the elements in the array to 0. So for that, what we can do here is arrays.fill. There is a method in arrays class called fill, which will actually initialize all the elements with some value that we need to specify here. Value is 0. And first argument is which array you wanted to make all the elements to 0. That is what we need to provide. So with this, all the elements in count array are initialized to 0. Fine. Now we are going to write this loop. We are already done with this loop. So how to know finally if the two strings are anagrams or not. So for that, we'll write a loop to check if there are any non-zeros in the count array. So for this, we need to run it till maxchar. For all the elements, we'll run a loop and we'll verify that if count of I is it not equal to 0. If in any case it is not equal to 0, then the two strings are not anagrams of each other. So that is what we'll return here. So if they are really anagram, then one statement actually increments the value and the other statement decrements the value. So with this, always once we are done with reading this two string all characters from these strings, then the value should be 0. That is what we have written the logic here. And you can see finally we are verifying the array here, like all the elements in array should be 0. If any of the element is non-zero, then we'll say that the two strings are not anagrams. So I'm returning false here. And once we come out of this loop, meaning it never entered into this if loop. So we can say that if we are out of this for loop, then we can say that the two strings are anagrams of each other. So I'm returning true here. Now what we'll do here is, let me clear all this. We should be calling this method from main method is anagram, and we wanted to convert this to char array. These two strings to char array. We'll read this into some status variable, and we need to actually read string 1 and string 2 from user input. We'll need to read it. So let's have some scanner object to read two strings. So for that, I'll use system.in, import this scanner class from java-util, and we'll say s.next. We wanted another string for comparison, for matching, so we'll read another string. And just for our readability, let's write some message here to enter a string. We can say enter first string or enter a string. Once it is entered, we'll have enter another string for anagram match, something like this. Once we read these two strings from console, then we'll convert these two strings to array, to character array. You can see it here. I'm converting two strings to character array and then sending it to the method is anagram. So what happens with this? This method will be called. It actually gets these two strings converted to char array. Then the whole logic, whatever we have written, will be executed, and finally it returns Boolean value. If two strings are anagram of each other, it returns true, or else it returns false here. Now let us execute this, and we need to verify here, right? Finally, we need to print this. If status is true, then say that strings are anagram. Else we can say that they are not. We can say something like this: strings are anagrams of each other, or else strings are not anagrams of each other. All right, so now let me execute this. We need to provide input, enter string. Let me provide as some army, and then we need to provide second string for match Mary. And you can see the output is strings or anagrams of each other. Let me execute again. This time I'll give something like state and some taste. You can see these two are anagrams of each other. We'll give some non-anagram here. So for that, let me give some car and we'll say cat. So you can see here strings are not anagrams of each other. So this is how we can find two strings if they are anagram of each other or not. We can also do this in a different way using string functions, like if we are aware of Java util string, so we can actually use the classes and built-in methods to do it in another way. So let us also do that. Let me show you that. For that we'll create another method. This time I'll call that my method as our anagram, which will actually take again like two strings. Let's say, for example, I'll return false for now. And how we are going to do here. So first string, I wanted to convert my first string into character array. I'll just name it as string1 char array. And for second string, I'll be using string builder. We'll call it as string2 here. And we'll pass string2 to it. I'm creating a string builder for my string2. Now, what we are going to do here is in this approach, like say for example, we have some two strings, army and Mary. So the logic we are going to follow here is, we'll first, let's say for example, this is my first string. We'll first find like we'll first take this character, read character by character from string1. Let's say for example, first we'll take a and we'll verify whether that is present in this second string or not. For that we'll use a method called index of. So if it is present, this character, that index of method which we apply on string2 will return the position. That is using index of method, it returns the position of this character in the string2. So then what we'll do is we'll use another method called delete caret, and we'll delete this character. Then we'll read next character from string1 r. So we'll check index of r in second string. So we'll get some position like this is the index of it. Then using that index, we'll delete this character also from string2. So on, we'll actually read each character from string1 and we will find the index from the string2. If index itself is not found, so we'll get it like if index it is returned as -1, meaning that that letter itself, that character is not present in string2. Then we'll directly say the return false, like the two strings are not anagrams. If it returns other than -1 value, then we'll actually delete that character from this string2. Like this we'll go on follow till all the characters in the string are read. So once we are done with reading all the characters, then we'll verify if string2 is empty or not. If string2 is empty, then we can say that both string1 and string2 are anagram of each other. Now let us write the logic for the same logic here. So for that, what we need to do here is, we wanted to read characters, right? So for each from the character, I'm going to read one character from each character from the first string, and we'll find index equal to string2 dot index of. And remember, this index of method takes string. Usually this index of method, what it does is, it actually returns the first substring of a given string. This is the string, and whatever you pass it, it treats it as a substring, and it actually returns the index of this substring, first occurrence of this substring in this string. So as this index of returns a string, but we have this as character here. So I'm just appending it as an empty string plus I'm adding my character here. Now we'll check if it is not -1. If it is -1, then we can directly say that let me write this else part. You can directly say that two strings are not anagram of each other. Index not equal to -1. Then we can say that it exists, the character exists, and we wanted to delete it from second string. Dot, and for that what we are going to use here is delete char index. Index is index. This we are going to follow for all the characters from the first string, and we'll find the index in the second string, and if it exists, meaning it is not it will be not -1. If the character doesn't exist, index will be -1, then this condition will be false, we'll return false. If it is not -1, we'll enter into this loop, we'll delete that character as we got the index here. So we'll delete the character at that index, and we'll go on perform the same until all the characters in this first string are completed. So once this we come out of this loop, we can say that we can actually verify if string 2 is empty or not. It has to be empty. Then we can say that two strings are anagram of each other. For that, let's find the length of string 2. Length, if it is equal to 0, I am using ternary operator here. I'll just return true, or else we'll return false. So you can see here, if this second string length is equal to 0 after end of this loop, then we'll return true, or else we'll return false, saying that two strings are not anagram of each other. This is the logic we are following here in this method. So this is second approach. Now let me call this method from here, from the main method. This time we passed only strings, not string converted to char array. So we'll just pass string 1 and string 2 like this. Now let me execute this. So you can see here R anagram is the method, second method. So this is like we can call it a second approach. Now let me execute this. Let me clear this first. Enter a string. Okay, let me use the same string army, Mary, and you can see here strings are anagrams of each other. And let me give it as again state test. You can see strings are anagrams of each other, as these two strings are anagram. I'll give car and cat. It says strings are not anagrams of each other. This is how we can actually verify for any two strings if they are anagrams of each other or not. This is second approach, and we have another approach where we can it will be very simple. We'll just be using the methods, string methods again, array methods. So you can see it here. What we are going to do in the third approach is let me say this as some anagram check. I'll call this method as anagram check, and here also we are going to read character array two strings. We'll read it as a character array. Then what we are going to do here is we are going to use some function. We are going so the logic we are going to do follow in this approach is we are going to sort the characters in each string. So for that we'll use arrays.sort method. We'll just pass string 1 here. Arrays.sort of string 2. Now both strings are sorted now, sorted in ascending order. Now we'll use another method as arrays.equals, and we'll pass two strings, these two strings, to check for equality. And this returns true only if both are equal. If these two strings are not equal after sorting, then it will return false. And with that, we can find that whether two strings are anagram or not. This is so simple. Like we just need to sort the two strings. So first we'll sort this. Say for example, in our case like army, right? So it will be sorted, and then string 2 will be sorted, and both will be same when we sort it. And that is what we wanted to verify here. If both are equal, then we will return that it is equal. It will so we are returning the result of this arrays.equals method, which returns true if these two strings are equal, or else it will return false. Now let me call this method from main method. Okay, let me copy this, as we wanted to pass uh, two strings converted to char array. And now let me execute this. And you can see it says strings are anagrams of each other. Let me execute it for another example. Let's say for example this time I will say silent and then listen. And you can say this you can see here both both strings are anagrams of each other. That is what it displays. And let's say for example again like some A B C D, and then I'll say some A B C E. It says strings are not anagrams of each other. So this is how we can actually find out if two strings are anagrams of each other or not. So we started with the first approach, and then we have seen another approach 2, where we use the string builder and string util functions. And the approach 3, we use the arrays class and sort method in the arrays class. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.